Before he was old enough to vote, he had already been poisoned by methane, nearly drowned in an oversized diving suit, and volunteered as his father's human test subject more times than most people go to the dentist. This is Jack Haldane, and he spent his entire life turning himself into a lab rat for science. Born in Oxford in 1892, Jack grew up in the shadow of his father, John Scott Haldane, a brilliant physiologist who believed the best way to understand human limits was to push them until something broke. And Jack, he was the something. So how does a child end up reciting Shakespeare in a methane-filled mine? Simple. You have a father who needs to prove that fire damp, the methane gas that was killing miners by the dozen, was lighter than air, and you need a test subject small enough to demonstrate that crawling low could save lives. In parenting terms, that means his father used him as a walking methane detector. Think of it like bringing your kid to work, except the work is let's see how long you stay conscious in poison gas. Young Jack stood in that mine and recited the famous Friends, Romans, Countrymen speech, from Julius Caesar until his legs buckled and he collapsed to the ground. Once down there, he recovered. Experiment successful. Completely normal father-son bonding. The finding was genuinely useful. Miners learned they could escape fire damp by crawling. But this was just the beginning. At 13, Jack was stuffed into an oversized diving suit to help his father study caisson disease, also known as the bends. In safety protocol terms, that means they had absolutely no backup plan. The suit was too big. Water started seeping in. Jack, with the presence of mind of someone who had already survived being poisoned for science, calmly adjusted the valves to keep the pressure high enough to stay alive. During World War I, while fighting in the trenches, he also helped his father improve gas masks to protect soldiers from chlorine and bromine. By this point, the pattern was clear. Jack Haldane was not just his father's son, he was his father's favorite piece of lab equipment. And here is where it gets worse. In 1939, the British Royal Navy submarine, HMS Thetis, sank off the coast of Liverpool. 99 men died. Haldane, now an adult with a lifetime of self-experimentation already behind him, was asked to investigate what went wrong. His answer? More self-experimentation. In experimental ethics terms, that means he was doing things that would get you arrested today. He and 4 colleagues sealed themselves into a small steel chamber to study whether a gradual rise in carbon dioxide had the same effects as a rapid one. Imagine sealing yourself in a steel box and cranking up the CO2 like you're trying to speedrun every symptom of suffocation. Haldane vomited. He had severe headaches. Some of his colleagues were incapacitated. Spoiler, it did not go well. But Haldane kept going. He exposed himself and his team to the kind of pressure and cold that submariners would face in a real disaster. The results? 1 colleague ruptured a lung. 6 colleagues and Haldane lost consciousness at various points. 1 colleague had a seizure. And Haldane himself, he suffered from the bends and sustained a spinal injury that caused him pain for the rest of his life, which is exactly what happened. He spent the remaining decades of his life in chronic pain, his spine permanently damaged from the experiments he insisted on running. The data he collected helped improve submarine safety protocols and saved lives. But Jack Haldane paid for that knowledge with his body, 1 experiment at a time, from childhood until the day he died in 1964. And all it took was a childhood of methane poisoning, decades of self-inflicted torture, and a spine that never worked right again. But hey, miners learned to crawl, and submariners got better safety protocols. Science. Jack Haldane turned his own body into a laboratory and paid the price every single day for the rest of his life. If you enjoyed this dive into the darkest corners of experimental science, hit subscribe and let me know which mad scientist I should cover next. My curious test subjects.